Hi class, in lesson 2.3 we will be investigating factors and greatest common factors. Learning target for today, determine the greatest common factor of two or more numbers. Key terms for lesson 2.3, common factor, greatest common factor, abbreviated GCF, and relatively prime numbers. Let's turn to page 70 and take a look at problem 1, harvest day. I would like you to answer letters A, B, and C with your group members. Number 1, letter A, Pat can assemble 1, 2, or 3 baskets. For number 1, letter B, the greatest number of fruit baskets that Pat can make is 6. For number 1, letter C, if there are 6 fruit baskets, then there will be 4 bananas, 2 apples, and 3 oranges in each basket. You can calculate the greatest number of baskets by dividing each quantity of fruit by the number of baskets. Let's turn to page 71 and take a look at number 2. I would like you to answer letters A, B, and C with your group members. Number 2, letter A, Michelle can organize 1, 2, 3, or 6 teams. And for number 2, letter B, the greatest number of teams that Michelle can form is 6. For number 2, letter C, if there are 6 teams, then there would be 7 boys and 2 girls on each team. Michelle can divide the number of boys by the number of teams to determine the number of boys on one team, and she can divide the number of girls by the number of teams to determine the number of girls on one team. At the top of page 72, you helped determine the greatest number of fruit baskets that can be created and the greatest number of teams that can be organized. A common factor is a factor of 2 or more numbers. The greatest common factor, or GCF, is the greatest factor 2 or more numbers have in common. For number 3, we need to determine the greatest common factor using prime factorization. We don't have an example like we did in 2.2, so let me go over letters A, B, and C with you to show you how to use prime factorization to determine the GCF. Letter A tells us to write the prime factorizations of 24 and 36 as mathematical statements. What that means is that we need to write it out in expanded form as a long string of unique prime numbers. We are not using exponents. So this is what the prime factorizations should look like for 24 and 36. Next, for letter B, we have to look at what factors are common to both 24 and 36. So this is kind of like a match game. You want to see which unique factors are in each of the prime factorization lists. So we have 2 and 2, we have 2 and 2, and we have a 3 and 3 that match up. For letter C then, we want to take those those factors that they have in common from letter B, and we want to multiply them together. The product then will be your GCF. So those are the steps that you need to take in order to use prime factorization to determine the GCF. Let's skip over to page 73 and take a look at number 7. I would like you to answer letters A through D with your group members. If we take a look at number 7, letter A, if we think about the steps, remember first we have to list the prime factorization for each number as a math statement. So we are writing it out in expanded form with no powers. The second step then, we have to match the prime factors that each has in common. And when we do that, we multiply those factors together in order to determine the GCF. So for letter A, it is 20. We follow the same steps for letter B. Our GCF is 6. For letter C, the GCF of 36 and 48 would be 12. And for letter D, since there are no prime factors that each has in common, the GCF is going to be 1. At the bottom of page 73, answer number 8 with your group members. If the greatest common factor of two numbers is 1, then the numbers do not share any other common factors. At the top of page 74, two numbers that do not have any common factors other than 1 are called relatively prime numbers. Answer number 9 with your group members. The example that the book gives for number 9, the numbers 12 and 31 are relatively prime. The numbers 8 and 9 are relatively prime. The explanation, neither pair of numbers shares a common factor other than 1. So whatever pairs of numbers you came up with, as long as at least one of the other numbers was a composite number, your explanation should have still been the same, that neither pair of numbers shares a common factor other than 1. Let's finish up with lesson 2.3. For homework tonight, I would like you to do number 10, A and B, and number 11, A and B. That will do it for lesson 2.3 on investigating factors and greatest common factors. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.